Okay, so this is the third and last session, and I have been trying to answer questions for most of my teaching ministry, and so I think I know quite well the questions that people constantly ask about these things. And one of the things I always say is that there is no right answer to wrong questions. And so the first thing we have to ask ourselves is this the right question? So that's what I will intend to do today, that even if I will try to give an answer to the questions, don't worry, but I think we should learn, that's one of my second objectives, to ask the right question. Okay. So how I intend to do this is, first of all, how do we ask the right answers? We are going to talk about morality, questions about morality. Okay? And I was very reluctant to give any of these answers without any previous understanding of what is morality, and if it is morality of sexuality, what is sexuality. So we spent 2 sessions trying to understand that, but we didn't properly speak about morality, so we have to talk about a little bit about that. Then one thing is the morality of actions, another thing is the morality of persons. There are 2 different things, and we need to understand the difference. And then and only then we will be ready for the right questions. And all this in 1 hour. I cannot tell you how challenging this is, but I will tell you the challenge. Okay. So, morality of acts. Let us begin with a simple question. Okay. Imagine you are driving this train, the train there, okay? And this train is going to kill 5 people who are tied down to the railway right there. Let us assume that you are a good person and you don't like to kill people. Yes, that's a good assumption? Yes, okay. So you try to avoid killing them and you slam on the brakes and the brakes don't work. So you're about to kill these 5 people when you realize that there is another rail track on your left. And if you turn the train there, you will spare the 5 people, but you will certainly kill 1 person that is here, tied down to the railway. Okay? Do you understand the situation? This is a moral situation. This is a moral dilemma. Okay? Actually, it was invented by a moral philosopher. So the question is, how many people here will turn to the left, knowing that, hopefully intending to save 5 people, but knowing that you will, 1 person will be dead. So raise your hands, those who would turn the train, please.
To the left.
To the left, yes.
There's no way of stopping.
Okay, there is no way of stopping. There is only one thing you can do, turn or not to turn. 2 options. So, sorry, again. How many people will turn the train? Raise your hands, please. I need to see. Okay, quite a good number of people. Yes. How many people would not turn the train? How many people? Can you raise your hands, please? Okay, 3, 2. Okay. You will not turn because.
Either way, somebody's going to die.
Yeah. So if you don't turn, 5 people die.
Okay, then I change to the left.
You change, okay. So you join the crowd now. Yes. So now the question is, why would you turn? Okay, it is not only about doing morally right or wrong choices. You have to know why, based on which criterion you are making your choices. Okay. So now, since there are people who are willingly in the answering zone, I'm sure you would turn the train?
Turn the train?
Yeah.
So that you kill 1 person instead of 5.
Yeah, I suppose I'll turn the train.
Okay, you will turn the train because?
To the side that has less people.
So it is better to kill less people rather than killing more people. That's a simple reason.
Makes no difference, you kill 1 or 5,
Makes no difference, 1 or 5.
You're still killing 1.
So it doesn't matter whether you kill 20 or kill 1, it is the same.
You're still killing 1.
So she said, for you, no, for you, yes. So you wouldn't turn because it is killing doesn't matter. Killing one whole village, one person, the same
You
thing.
will kill also if you turn, right?
Yes. So the question is there a difference between killing many people and killing one?
There is a difference.
No difference. Quantity is no difference. Okay? Okay, so that would be anyone would turn for another reason. Or is this all of you who are turning for the same reason? Because it is better to kill few people rather than killing many people. Okay? This sounds familiar, right? It's about the consequences of your actions, right? That if the consequences of your actions are going to be worse than if you don't act, it is better not to act, or the other way around. That you would choose the choice that has less harmful consequences. Okay? Okay. So does that sound like a good principle to go by? No. At least? No. Yes, okay. So at least for the majority of people here. Now, another scenario, because we only have 10 minutes to do this. There is another train, and nobody's driving it. It's like MRT in Singapore, the new lines. And I am in a bridge, and I see the train coming, and the train is coming under the bridge. It's going to pass the bridge, and it's going to kill 5 people who are tied to the rails there, still tied there, okay? So once again, there is no driver. I think the only solution is I jump over the tracks, and I allow the train to hit me. I will die, but I will save 5 people. And just before I jump, I realize that I only weigh 59 kilos. I know for sure I'm not going to stop this train. My death will be in vain. So as I am totally desperate because of this situation, I realize that there is a big guy just beside me. And he's kind of leaning over, very excited about the whole situation. It would be very easy for me to just push him a little bit, and he will certainly fall on the track, certainly stop the train, and I will have certainly saved 5 people. Okay, so how many people think I should push the big guy? Raise your hands. Nobody. Okay, now I have a question for you. Whatever happened to the principle that it is better to make choices that have less harmful consequences? What's the difference between bringing the train to the guy, and bringing the guy to the train? So you are not consistent. So some choices you use one principle, for another choices you are using another principle. What principle are you using now? Why would you not turn? If you told me before it is better, I would turn the train, because if I turn the train, only one person dies. If you push the big guy, only one big guy dies. To make things more equal, let us presume that this is a big guy too. So everything is equal. So what made you change your principle? How is it different?
Because you have to kill one person.
You have to kill one person. In this one, you kill one person too. You send a train to him. How is that different from sending a bullet? You take a gun, you send a bullet to him, dead. Is that killing? You send a train.
I don't want to have the intention to kill somebody.
You want to have the intention to kill them. But the intention is the same in both cases. The intention is you want to save 5 people. In both cases, the intention and the consequences are exactly the same.
But the first one, it didn't cause the death.
You have the same choice in both cases. In this case, you have the choice to turn or not to turn. In here, you have the choice to push or not to push. This fellow was not in danger until you turned the train. He was in the same danger as the fat guy until you decided to put him in danger. Okay, we don't have time. Anyone wants to solve the problem? Yes.
Typically speaking, it's better better for one man to die for the rest.
Which one of the two? Which one of the two? Biblically speaking, if it is better for one man to die than for the rest,
For the sake of others. So the fat man has to die for the sake of others. The thin man,
so you would push the fat guy
yes.
for biblical reasons.
Yes.
Okay, that's I like consistency. You apply one principle for biblical reasons, you turn the train. For biblical reasons, you push the fat guy.
I think in the second option, you could have jumped and killed yourself to stop the train. Why kill the guy?
We said that I am too. Look at me. Do you think I can stop a train? Okay, so we dismiss that. It's a very noble option on my part, but useless. Okay, let me just try to make things very clear here. We have a cultural blind spot in our culture. I spoke about this before, but for now, it is important to understand that this is more or less how we tend to think. We have this scale in our brains, and we try to put benefits and harms. So what are the harms of option A? 5 people die. Option B, 1 person dies. So it seems that you have more burdens if you don't push the guy in, if you don't turn the train. And therefore, you should turn the train. And therefore, if you are consistent, you should push the guy. So it means that this, and the reason why because we have this in our heads, then we are today debating about all these issues. Euthanasia, what is the difference? You are going to die anyway. The difference is dying with pain later or dying without pain earlier. So it seems that it is more beneficial if you die sooner without pain. Okay. The issue of organ trade, what is better? To allow people to die without organ exchange, or to allow people to sell their kidneys so that you can save lives? It looks like it is better, it has more benefits if we allow people to sell their kidneys. Okay. Sexual morality, if there are no harms with sexual behavior, it should be permitted and tolerated. Same thing with abortion, especially in cases of rape, for example, and contraception. What is the difference between having more children that you can afford to have, or preventing those conceptions, if you can do it? So it seems that it has more advantages if you allow contraception, allow some cases of abortion, sexual actions that have no harm for other people, euthanasia, and organ trade. So once again, this criteria, this way of thinking, is not something that is natural with us. It was invented. It is called utilitarianism. I said this before. It was invented in the 19th century by Jeremy Bentham and his disciple John Stuart Mill. So we know the books are there, the pages are there, the quotations and the reasons are there. The question is that if you cling to this belief, you have to push the fat guy. And if you didn't, then you need another criterion. You need another ethical principle. So let me give you the ethical principle. What is better? One question. To kill somebody accidentally, or to intentionally attempt to kill somebody but fail. For example, now you are very tired of listening to me. Okay? So you take your gun and you shoot at me, but you don't kill priests very often. So you fail, naturally. You are not very well trained. And nobody saw you, and nobody heard your shot. Okay? So there are no consequences. Okay? So which one is worse? Your attempt to kill me, your failed attempt to kill me, or if I am driving down the road and someone falls on my car from a tree and there is nothing I can do and I cannot even brake in time and he dies. Think about which one of the two is worse. What do you think? Okay, so it's obviously, and this is something important, in all legislations in every country, this is something that we can all agree with, that it is worse, morally speaking, intentional attempted murder, even if you don't kill anybody with no consequences, than accidental killing that has terrible consequences. One person is dead. There will be one widow and some orphans, perhaps, due to this accident. So, but that's very intriguing. What happened to our principle of morality depends on the consequences of actions? It seems that now it does not depend so much on the consequences of actions. It seems that it depends on the intention. But the intention is not a good word here. Because remember, in the previous case, the intention is the same. You still want to save 5 people. There is something more subtle here. So the reason why, and I think we should all start with some agreements. And this is probably, as I said before, one issue in which everybody agrees. Everybody would agree that intentional attempted murder is more morally serious, morally reprehensible. So what matters most in morality is the will of the moral agent, okay? Because our decisions have a real impact in ourselves. That's the reason. The moment you pull the trigger, even if you fail to kill me, you become a person dangerous to society. You're a person now capable of killing someone. And next time, maybe, you won't fail. And therefore, if people find out that you pull the trigger with intent to kill, you will be prosecuted and perhaps, if so convicted, go to jail and be punished for this. Why? Because our decisions change us. And this is the most important aspect of morality. That even if nothing happens in the world, the moment you pull the trigger, you made a decision that changed yourself. So let us start thinking about morality in these terms. Not so much in how many things happen after you do what you do, but what happens to you when you decide to do what you decided to do. Okay, so we can finish this one. We must never judge persons, we must judge intentional behavior. There is a difference between the two, and we'll explain this now. There is a difference between judging actions and judging people. Because we intend, here comes the issue, because we intend the ends and the means, the end does not justify the means. So what's the difference between pushing a fat guy and turning the train? There is this crucial difference. When you turn the train, you don't need to want that the train hits the other guy. As a matter of fact, if it doesn't, you will be very happy, provided you want to save people. Imagine you turn the train and the train goes off and the train is empty and goes off the rail, derails, and nobody's killed. You will be very happy. Can you say the same thing in the case of the fat guy? Imagine you push him, and because he's so fat, right, he bounces off the track, right? What do you need to do? Will you be very glad because he escaped death? No. You have to rush down very fast and roll him back into the track so that the train this time hits him. Because that is what you need to want. You need to want that he's being hit by the train so that your intention is being fulfilled. Your intention of saving the 5 people needs that the fat guy be hit by the train. That the guy be hit by the train is your means to save the 5 guys. This is the key to the whole problem. In one example, the death of the man, when you turn the train and the man dies, it is a consequence of your choice, not the means of your choices. And that little difference is not little at all. It's crucial in these matters. Why? Because we not only intend the goals of our actions, we also need to intend the means. You want what you choose. You chose your clothes, you chose what to sit here. That is something you want. We not only always want the consequences of our actions. Okay? You came here, and all of you, if you drove today, you contaminated Singapore. Do you want Singapore to be contaminated? You polluted the air of Singapore, and you did it. It's a consequence of your good action to come here. It's good, don't worry. So we need to tolerate some bad consequences of our actions. That is very different from choosing a bad action so that something good happens after. So this is the key of morality. And this is why the end does not justify the means. Because if we cannot intend bad things, we shouldn't intend bad means either. If the intention is what qualifies as morally, we said we intend the ends and we have to intend the means as well. So I hope that is clear. It's very clear. There is nothing mysterious about that. And so I need to move on because this is going to be used later on. So morality depends mainly on what we intend to do because our decisions make us who we are as persons. And this is the second question. How do our decisions change us? This is what most people think morality is all about. It is about the decisions of the authority. So you are parking in the wrong place and the police or the one who is in charge of the parking place catches you and say, oh, you parked in the wrong place at the wrong time, you are going to be fine. So you have to discuss with him. I'm in this terrible hurry, my goldfish has died, I have to, is dying, I have to go to the vet, and I don't have time to park in a better place. So please forgive me, please be lenient, please bend the rules for me. And the police is very understanding and says, okay, I know how you feel for your goldfish because I have 3 at home, so this time I'm going to let you go. And this is more or less what many people think about morality, that morality is about following a bunch of obligations. But this is not what morality is all about. Morality is more about this. If 2 people are lost in the sea and they have been there for weeks or for 1 week and they are going to die, they didn't eat anything, they have no water to drink, they are totally dehydrated, they will certainly die. And it occurs to them that it doesn't make any sense to die of thirst in the middle of the sea, in the middle of water. So it's good for them to drink seawater. It is certainly very tempting, but it is not good. So imagine they decide to drink seawater. Actually, there are cases in which people do that. The result is that they die even faster because they dehydrate themselves even further. So objectively speaking, it is a bad choice. Can you blame them? Do you think they are committing suicide or they are stupid people because they did a stupid thing? No. One thing is the person, another thing is the action. This is what I said before. We have to judge actions constantly. We have to judge behavior. Is drinking seawater a good behavior or a bad behavior? Objectively speaking, it is bad. And it is bad regardless whether you are in the middle of the sea or sitting in your sofa watching TV. What makes it bad is the fact that human kidneys cannot dissolve the salt of seawater. Okay, that's what makes it bad. That there is no correlation or not fitting relationship between seawater and human kidneys. It depends on reality. It does not depend on your situation. It does not depend on the will of the authority and any of those things. Okay? At the same time, we may excuse them because it is not a very voluntary thing to do. You are so desperate that perhaps you are not thinking straight and your thirst is so overwhelming that you cannot make a good, rational decision. We may excuse them. Excusing them doesn't mean that they are doing the right thing. It means that the wrong thing is not imputable to them, that they are not responsible, so much responsible for this wrong thing. So I hope that is clear. So even if they were desperate, drinking seawater is bad for them, circumstances may excuse people, but not behavior. So this is more or less what our choices today. You have utilitarian ethics, right or wrong depends on the balance of good and bad side effects, consequences of actions, the greatest happiness for the greatest number, the only principle you need in morality. We explain that, and we also explain why it fails. So what do Catholics do? When they cannot apply this principle, they go to the other side. What do you have in the other side? In the other side, you have obligation ethics, that morality depends on the will of the authority. And the authority could be the Bible, could be God, could be the Pope, if you are a very good Catholic, or you think you are, anyone who has will. And what does it mean? That you engage in this contract with God, with the church, with whoever. I fulfill your will, and then you will do this for me. And this is sadly the state of many Catholics in the church today. So right and wrong depends on the will of authority. Just like parking laws depends on the will of the authority. But as I said before, that is not the case. So here you have, if you crack open the skull of a Catholic, don't do that. But it is proven, it is scientifically proven that the brain is divided in two sections. This is a fact, okay? It's scientific. And scientists don't know why. They're very much perplexed. Some have some theories about why this is the case, but there is no satisfactory theory that accounts for the whole thing. Okay? I have my own theory. And my own theory is that Catholics have a divided brain so that they can use one for secular issues, another one for religious issues. So when they're in church, they only use half of the brain, which explains many things that happens in the parish, I'm sure. And when they're outside, they only use the other secular aspect of the brain. And they never mix, they never touch. So is there an alternative? So when you think about moral issues like genocide, terrorism, you use the secular brain. It makes perfect sense. You can use utilitarian ethics. Why is terrorism terrible? Because many people die. Okay, many innocent people die. So the bad consequences are obvious. But when it comes to issues like premarital sex, what are the bad consequences? Not so obvious. Let us move to the religious brain and let us think, oh, the Pope says so, the Bible says so. Okay. So is there a better alternative? We said that the Bible doesn't, we said that morality is not about fulfilling the will of the authority, that is obligation ethics. Is there another kind of ethics? And I would like to introduce to you the other kind of ethics. So there are two kinds of books. If you want to, for example, play a sport, football, for example, you have to learn the rules of football. Okay? Now, does it the fact that you fulfill the rules of football mean that you're a good football player? What do you think? Could you play football and not break the rules and say, I'm a wonderful player, I'm today the best player in the match, we lost 10-0, okay? But I am the best player because I never broke a single rule of football. Could you say that? No. Okay. The goal of football is to make goals, right? So that is what you should do. If you take a chair and you put it in the middle of the football court and you sit down, you won't break any rule. But that doesn't make you a good player. Okay? So rules are important. They define the game. Or if you don't like football and you like cooking, imagine you never cooked, or you go to my house and you see me with a book here and I'm cooking something, and you see that I'm looking at the book and putting 1 spoon of sugar, heat for 5 minutes, heat for 5 minutes. Am I a good cook? No? Why not? Who are you to tell me? Okay. Chances are I'm not. If I have to look at the rules so much, it means that I don't have the skill. And this is the key here, the key question here. Okay? That to be a better player means to have the skill of playing football. To be a better cook, or a good cook, means to have the skills of cooking, which are very different from the rules. So it is not morality, it's more about the skills. The question is are there skills to be a good person? That is what morality really is all about. And only if we understand that, we will have right questions about morality. So what is do you think that the water follows the river bed, or the riverbed is shaped by the water? Which one directs which? The water follows the riverbed.
No, directs.
The water
If the water flows,
shapes the riverbed. The water shapes the riverbed, and then the water goes through the riverbed. No? Yes. So don't they mutually influence each other? It is both. The water shapes, determines the riverbed, if you want. And the riverbed, at the same time, determines the course of the river, determines the flow of the water. And the same thing happens with our actions and ourselves. Okay? That you have actions, and if they are voluntary, they create dispositions. And if you have a disposition, it is easier for these actions to happen again. And this happens to wrong acts. And this is why people have addictions, for example. Wrong acts create dispositions, and once you have a bad disposition, it is very easy. If you have bad temper, it is very easy for you to react in a bad way. Okay? But it also happens for the good acts as well. Good acts create right dispositions. So if all works a little bit like this, this is who we are as a person, good or bad, and we have branches, and we have the leaves could be the particular actions we do every day. So if we keep repeating some particular actions, just like if you keep repeating playing football, you eventually can become a better player, because practice makes perfect, and that happens in morality as well. Okay. So the more you practice a certain kind of actions, the more you create a disposition, and this disposition changes you. And this is the key issue here. Why only voluntary actions matter in morality is because only voluntary actions will shape our character. What you do accidentally, if I kill someone accidentally, doesn't make me a murderer, doesn't change who I am. I am still the same person. The moment you decided to pull the trigger, you became a different kind of person. Now you are dangerous to society. You created a pathway in your actions that can be repeated. Okay. So this is more or less what I think morality is for many people. Is the arrow there. It's a bunch of obligations and a bunch of prohibitions. And the more you have, the less free you are, the more miserable you are. And this is why if you are Catholic, you are even more miserable than normal people. Because you have more obligations and you have more prohibitions. And if you are wondering why the church, even after Pope Francis and Bishop William is asking the church to evangelize, why don't you care so much about evangelization? Because you are nice people. You don't want to make other people miserable. You are already miserable. You have so many obligations and so many prohibitions, and you find it so hard to fulfill them. Why should you impose that burden on other nice people that you know? Just let them be. If they are good, God will save them, so don't complicate their lives as much as you are complicating your lives. It is too late for you, but they are still on time. That's more or less the state of the church. So that is a wrong understanding of morality, a morality of obligations. And the more you think that morality is only that, the more miserable you are going to be, the less an evangelizer you are going to be. This is what morality really is all about. It's about creating in yourselves skills, and skills enhance your freedom. Once you have the skill of cooking, you can do things you couldn't do before. You can cook paella, and you couldn't do that before. It empowers you to do things you couldn't do before. Once you have the skill of swimming, you can do things you couldn't do before. You are more free. So morality is to set us free. As long as we understand morality as the morality of virtues and not the morality of obligations, that is what virtues are. Virtues are acquired dispositions to do good. But they won't rain from the sky. We have to acquire them through practice. And that's pretty much the new understanding of morality that we have to play with. Okay, I have one last question for you, and this is going to be a tragedy because it's taking me longer than I expected. A, B, or C, these are the options. So, to be meaningful, a gift needs to be, what do you think? A, valuable in itself. B, valuable for the receiver. C, valuable for the giver. Okay, confusing here. A, how many people say A? A, okay. You are two lonely guys here. Very good. 2.5. Okay. B. B, valuable for the receiver. Okay. C, valuable for the giver. Very few people, but a little bit. Okay. Let us make this a little bit more practical. Okay. So I'm not going to ask you a question, so that relax, I have to fulfill my promise. Okay. It turns out that tomorrow morning at 8 in the morning I come with this diamond and I give it to you. Okay. How do you feel?
Happy?
You feel happy. Okay, good. I know why she feels happy. Diamonds are very expensive. Okay. What does it mean?
It means that you have a thought to give me something.
I have a thought. It's the thought that counts. So, okay, that's good. And that's all you know, that I have a thought. How meaningful is that thought?
Sorry?
How meaningful is that thought? Okay, let me give you a break. It turns out that I have a machine at home, okay, and that makes diamonds. And every morning I make 100 diamonds and give them to complete strangers before breakfast. So how meaningful is my diamond?
As meaningful as it is to me.
Do you think it's very meaningful? So let us distinguish here between being valuable and being meaningful. Valuable is when you sell it, that is the value it has in the street. So the diamond will be equally valuable in any case, whether it, okay. But if I give it to strangers, how meaningful it is to you? Now that you know that, how meaningful do you think is my gift to you?
Still meaningful because you chose to give it to me.
Not necessarily. I just give it to the first people I meet, and you were there and just happened to be there. Compare that with this other example, okay? Diamonds are very expensive, and priests don't earn very much. So I have been saving all my life, okay, 48 years of my life trying to save to buy this diamond because I know you like it. And then I spent all my money in this diamond, and then I gave it to you. Okay? Which one of the two is more meaningful? The first scenario or the second scenario?
The second.
The second scenario. Why?
Because you use all of your whatever that you have to give.
Okay, that's the right answer. So let us go back to this question. A, B, or C?
C.
Obviously C. Okay, so this is my point here, okay, that if what is valuable in itself is made cheap for the giver, it becomes meaningless for the receiver. Does it make sense? Okay, because diamonds for me are quite cheap. I have a machine at home. I can make hundreds every day. So if it is not very valuable for me, it becomes very meaningless for the person I give it to. While if it is very valuable for me, it becomes very meaningful, regardless the value it has in itself. Let us apply this to sex. Okay? So we said in these two previous sessions that sex in itself, the sexual act, is very precious, very valuable, very meaningful in the way it is. It means I want to unite the most intimate aspect of yourself with you, with your most intimate aspect, totally with you. So that is very meaningful in itself and very valuable. But I can do the same as I do with the diamonds. I can cheapen it for myself. And the more I cheapen it for myself, the more it becomes meaningless when I give it as a gift. Does it make sense? So I hope this other makes sense also. The more it is a need, the less it is a gift. That is sexual activity is an itch I have to scratch, otherwise I cannot bear it. It has hardly any meaning. If it is 100% of a need, I mean, are the satisfaction of your needs of any meaning to anyone? Well, if you are totally free and you don't really need that, then you can give it as a gift. And when you give it, it is a free gift. Gifts are meant to be free, right? So, more or less, this is what we tried to cover in the previous session. This is what most people think. Sex is personal only when we decide so. My decisions matter only because of the consequences they have. And I can do what I want as long as no one gets hurt. So as long as there is love, sex is good. As long as no one gets hurt, sex is okay. Today we have covered this issue that our decisions make us. So our decisions about how we treat our sexuality in ourselves. This is the right question. The wrong question is, what happens after you have sex? That is an important question, okay? But it's not the main question. The main question is, what do you do to yourself when you are doing it? Okay? So my decisions about how I treat my sexuality in myself and with others define me as a person, express my character, express what kind of person I am. And with that, Um, okay, a little bit more on this. The purpose of morality is that we lead good lives. That was the idea of Aristotle, probably one of the most brilliant understandings of morality, one of the most brilliant ethicists. And he said the purpose of morality is to be happy, to have a good life. A good life is not to feel happy, but you look back and say, yes, I'm satisfied with this life. Okay, what does it mean? Okay. If I have to explain this, it will take me a long time, and we don't have that time, so just try to consider this. For me, to have a good life is to have a life that is meaningful, fulfilled, and with belonging. We all have these needs. To belong to something that is greater than ourselves, to belong to other people. Remember loneliness. Not to belong to anyone is one of the worst things, if not the worst, that can happen to us. Okay? That our lives have meaning, that are not, even if we have suffering, this suffering is not senseless. Or even if we have lots of pleasure and lots of joy and happiness, if it is senseless, it will be kind of an empty happiness as well. Okay? That our lives have meaning, fulfillment, and belonging. Now, what is marriage? Isn't marriage precisely designed to fulfill these things? That it is designed to fulfill these things doesn't mean that it does fulfill them. This is why marriage is the environment. Well, these things could be fulfilled provided people create the appropriate environment. It is not something to be taken for granted. But isn't that about meaningfulness? That we need someone who said, I'm going to be here for you unconditionally. That is meaning. Okay? What is fulfillment? Or what is belonging? That I belong to this person. This person has chosen to belong to me. We are part of each other's lives. Okay? In fulfillment, that our lives, even when we end, will not end here. That we transmit our own life to the next generation, or we can have shared our lives, even if we don't have children, we can have shared our life with other people. That we are fulfilled, not only filled in ourselves, but filling other people with our lives. If that is what life and marriage are all about, this is exactly what marriage and sexual acts are all about as well. In marriage, you have this fidelity that gives meaning to the other person. Meaning needs something that has some significance, that this person is faithful to me. Okay. Belonging, as I said before, the intimate union of lives, that we are part of each other's lives. We belong to each other. That the other person is part of me and I am a part of his life. And fulfillment, opening of the lives to other lives. This is exactly what the sexual act does. A sexual act is an expression of fidelity. How many people go to the altar and say, I promise not to have sex with anybody except you? How many times you have heard that vow? Never. And I think you will never hear that vow. And however, if people do, they call it infidelity. Why is adultery infidelity? If not because sexual acts with other people rather than you is not fidelity. And sexual acts only with you are precisely an expression of fidelity. It is something that everybody understands, even if we understand it so well that we don't need it to be explicit. And of course, it is a union of the bodies, the most intimate union, as we said before, and it also communicates life, obviously, and that is why it is reproductive and procreative. So sexual acts are the ultimate expression of the marital relationship. So with this, I have hoped to cover what I think is the background to understand the right questions. Okay? So from a dualistic utilitarian understanding of mentality, we have sex, only physical, nothing personal. From the philosophy of the body, sex is always intimate and personal and should not be used for other purposes other than the purpose it has in itself. And from the theology of the body, God drew in our sexual bodies his image of eternal unconditional communion of persons. And that is why we participate in that communion precisely through the right exercise of our sexual desires. So the wrong question is, what are the wrong consequences of this action? And the right question is, what kind of sexual acts lead us in the right path of personal fulfillment, meaning, and belonging.